And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again across the Louisiana plain, where we are elevating the cause of constitutional conservatism in Louisiana, elevating the cause of constitutional conservative citizens across the state, and rapidly now draining the Louisiana swamp. My name is Chris.
And I'm Danielle, and this is the State of Freedom, brought to you by freedom-loving Louisiana First Patriots. Hello, State of Freedom warriors. Thank you for inviting us to be part of your day. We are so grateful for you. You're the best listening family anyone could possibly hope for, and we are only here because of your encouragement, your prayers, and your financial support. If you are looking for a way to support us, to advertise with us, or to send us feedback, please visit our website at freedomstate.us. We'd really appreciate it if you'd also help us get the word out and spread the reach of the State of Freedom. Please like the show on whatever platform you listen to us, subscribe to it, and share it. You can share short clips instead of the full episodes from our YouTube and Rumble channels, and links to those are always in the show notes and over on freedomstate.us. We are so honored to be affiliate partners for General Michael Flynn's movie, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. The DVD can be purchased from several popular retailers, and he's on tour screening and promoting the film. If you'd like to support General Flynn and the State of Freedom, visit freedomstate.us to get your copy of the DVD, to buy Flynn movie merchandise, or purchase tickets to a live screening. Our affiliate link is also in the show notes. Today we have a treat for you. We will be welcoming Representative Neil Reiser to the show for the first time. Before we bring Representative Reiser on, let me read the scripture of the day. It's Titus chapter 2, verses 7 through 8, and it's Paul instructing his ministry partner Titus. It says, "Above all, set yourself apart as a model of life nobly lived, with dignity, demonstrate integrity in all that you teach. Bring a clear, wholesome message that cannot be condemned, and then your critics will be embarrassed with nothing bad to say about us." And this is a message for all of us today. Whether you're a vocal advocate or you have quiet conversations and try and turn the hearts of students or family members or neighbors toward the truth, we're all teaching something and someone with what we say and how we live. The Word of God instructs us to be holy as the Lord is holy, and I believe that we're in a time where personal holiness, which just means to be set apart in service to God, personal holiness is becoming a greater and greater call for us. The distinction between holy and wicked is becoming more obvious every day as the culture around us gets darker and apparently more evil. But our response to seeing this evil should naturally be to draw closer to the Lord and hold ourselves to an ever-increasing higher standard, not out of religious obligation, but because our relationship with the Lord. We will continue to move toward a higher standard because of our love for Him, because we're spending time with Him, and continuing to change and become more like Him. And at the same time, our tolerance for hypocrisy in ourselves will get less and less. And as we live this way, empowered by the Holy Spirit living within us, our message will become more pure, more clear, and even our worst critics will not be able to open their mouths against us.
In other words, Danielle, the more darkness in the world we see, the more nefarious forces arrayed against us, the more light we should be in the world, and we maintain the light by staying close to the Lord and trying to do His will and doing things that are going to meet with resistance. We know are going to meet with resistance, and we don't know for sure whether they're going to be successful or not. But we're going to move forward in faith and trust. And Representative Neil Reiser, who's our guest today, is moving forward as best he can in faith and trust to abolish the individual state income tax in Louisiana. And I guarantee you that's, while that is probably very, very popular, I think we talked last time, Neil, that 9-1 Louisiana citizens want it. There's obviously some resistance to it among the political elites and even within the legislature. Before we get into your effort to abolish the state income tax, which, my God, I'm so glad you're doing it, trying to do it. What is the amount of money that's generated annually in Louisiana every year from the individual state income tax?
It is approximately, in the note we had on House Bill 844 reflected $5.1 billion. That's how much is collected from our citizens every year.
And so what do you say when people say, okay, Neil, they say, Neil, that's $5.1 billion the state needs. It's going into the general fund in case we need it. How are you going to make up for that? How are we going to pay for this?
I'll open up this way, is that when we receive the monies, all the money, when you pay that $5.1 billion in, we all pay it in, it all goes in just like your checking account, which is the general fund, that's known as the general fund. And we have rebates and credits. And those rebates and credits, when it comes in, we take those out of the checking account, and those are already in existence. So this is no new tax. These are monies that we're already sending somewhere. We're already being expended. Some have been on the books since the 1930s. So what we would do is simply come in, that $5.1 billion, under my plan, we would take whatever percent that is of the total rebates and credits that's outstanding and give it back to the people of Louisiana. Now, Chris, there's those that would kind of, the opponents of it, they'll say, oh, no, they're trying to raise your homeowners. They're trying to raise your property tax. No, these are monies that we're already collecting. We're already collecting them. They're already inside our checking account, and we're already giving them away. We're just not giving them to the people of Louisiana.
Who are we giving them to right now, Neil?
It's about 800 and something pages of people we're giving it to.
Okay. But it's not going to the individual citizens of Louisiana who are paying these taxes.
Correct. No, it's not. No.
Okay.
No, you might be eligible for one here and there, some kind of rebate or credit, but no, you're paying. But that amount is already coming out of the amount that's being collected. So this is, well, I'll say again, I'll keep saying, it's monies that's it's revenue neutral. Monies we already had. When we come in every year, you have the choice. You can come in. I could give you you could have a rebate or a credit for wherever you want it to. It's just a matter of passing it, and it's already outstanding. We're already receiving the money, and it's just a matter of where are we sending it to. Who are we giving the credit? Who are we giving the rebate to? Right now, we're paying personal income tax, and I want to do away with it. Chris, I think you and I have spoken maybe this personally. Since about 1985, we have seen Louisiana continue to lose population. We had 8 congressional members, went to 7, went to 6. And my point is that the system that we're using since the 30s of giving a lot of this money away that's supposed to incentivize and supposed to bring people here, well, I just really hadn't seen it. This is my 17th year in the legislature. No, I've been here 17 years in the legislature, and it's not working. You have Texas and Florida are two of among those that do not charge an income tax, and they're two of the most robust economies in the nation.
Yeah. And Representative Reiser, you presented this bill in House Ways and Means on April 15th, which is not lost on me that you did that on tax day. What happened in that hearing?
Well, it was quiet. If you didn't get a chance to have that,
yeah,
I came
it was awfully quiet. I was sitting right next to you down there, Neil, and I was absolutely shocked. I'm sitting there. It's one of the biggest. It's a revolutionary item that you're trying to move through the legislature to give individual citizens in Louisiana some real tax relief. And I don't even think you got a question from the committee on it.
No, I know. So, Danielle, to answer your question, I presented the bill. Went through exactly what I was talking about, that these are monies that were already received. It's just a matter of how we distribution of them. Went through, I put inside the bill that the effective date would be January 1 of 2026. That would give us next year to go through, sort it out. Even gave them the option of this. I said, look, if you think 26 is too soon, how about 27, 28, 29? I said, give me a date. I've heard everybody, even the majority on that committee, run on the fact that they want to eliminate the personal income tax. I don't know of a single wide candidate that ran for office this last time that wasn't for it. But when it came time to make a motion, it was nothing.
You are so right. We had quite a number of candidates come on this show, and almost to a person, Chris asked this question: are you for abolishing the state income tax? And no one had the strength to say no to that. Everyone said, yes, I'm all about it. But here we are, and the bill is still pending.
Well, let me say this too. I just want to tell you this too, real quick, Neil, because we had Senator Morris on. We asked him about it. He was the only one who kind of offered a slightly different side of it. He said, in principle, I'm for it, but it's not that easy because. And then he actually pointed to Texas and another state and said, well, look, they eliminated the state income tax over there, but they hit people on property taxes. And so, did they really come out better or not? And that was kind of his thought on it. But what you're saying is, and I just want to make sure we're very, very clear on this. If someone comes in and makes the argument that, yeah, we got to, you abolish the individual income tax, but you're going to be hitting taxpayers in other buckets in other areas, and you're saying it's not necessary that has to be the case.
Under my plan, that's an inaccurate. Under my plan, that's an inaccurate statement. These are monies that we're already allocating and giving out in rebates and credits. They're already going out the door. They're already going out. No new monies, no new taxes. It's a matter of how do we allocate the monies that we are sending back now. And it's just simple as this. We don't give them all. Won't give the rebates and credits back in full. We'll give them back. Maybe it's 50% to those special interest groups. But right now, Chris, it's the special interest groups. The problem becomes this: when you come in and say, I'm going to eliminate one, well, that turns into a heck of a fight. Under my thought and under my plan, let's all just take an equal hit. Well, if that number's 48%, 50%, everybody shares equally. Everybody's taking that, every corporation, every business, they share equally. And that way we give the money back. And we got roughly a 7 times multiplier. When that individual, when that citizen spends their money in their little local town, that money generates, and it's just the opposite of what was being said earlier. It actually generates more local sales tax dollars where you don't have to increase at a local level.
Yeah,
because they're spending it locally.
Because you're putting money here, Neil, and this is so important that you are simply redirecting these rebates directly into the hands of tax-paying Louisiana citizens, individual citizens, and you're saying ultimately that is going to be a revenue-generating thing that you're doing, and it will enhance our economy dramatically.
Let's use one example. I'll pick one. It's been controversial through the years. The movie tax credit currently gets $180 million. That $180 million is going out the door. So that's just one. So you take that $180 million or 50% of it, and you revert that $90 million back, and it goes back towards us not paying any personal income tax. You see the methodology? That money's already being spent by the state. It's already being given away. But it's just not being given back to the people of Louisiana. And that's the challenge. You have the special interest groups. So when you come in, what can the people of Louisiana do is just stay on their state legislators that they want the opportunity to this money to spend the way they see fit and not a failed methodology we've been using since the 30s.
It's our money after all, right, Neil?
It's ours, yeah, absolutely. Every time we pass a rebate or a credit, we're taking more money out of the general fund. That's less money we have to spend on roads, bridges, anything that we have. We have less to spend. And Senator Marsh is right, there is in the fact that we give so much of our state revenue away in rebates and credits. Well, right around, look at our roads. Well, that's where it's going. We're not keeping the revenue. We're not spending it. We're not using our general fund. We're getting it in, and we're handing it out to someone else. It's not being spent inside our state budget.
Yeah, and Neil, why do you think fundamentally the way that we're doing it now by sending all the credits and all the rebates out to the big special interest? Why do you think that has not resulted in what we wanted to happen as a result of doing that?
And I'll go back to though I was mentioning that the world kind of changed in the 80s. Technology and the way we do business has changed so much, and the matter of the way that people interface. It used to be like town to town. You would have a town to town, or compete parish to parish. Then it was state to state. We're competing on a global basis now, and the individuals, the young kids. My 2 children do not live in Columbia anymore, And we've got to do something to allow them to stay where that rural Louisiana is diminishing just as fast as we speak right now, and the whole state is. The whole state's diminishing. I mean, it's so we kind of have this false narrative that if one of the larger metro areas is doing good, then the state's doing good. We're a whole state, so if we're not taking care of the locals, and if we don't get that money back in the form of no personal income tax, all these things will come true, because you have your school systems that have to be funded. You got your police office that has to be funded, but who's going to do it? The population keeps dropping and dropping, but the cost goes up.
Yeah.
But I want to hit one more. I keep saying that this is revenue neutral. It does not raise taxes on anyone. Actually, in the bill, Chris, it says no tax should be accessed, levied, collected, or paid on income.
And by returning all of this money to local economies and to local citizens all over the state, you're saying that will have a real revitalizing effect on those local economies, which will in turn incentivize people to stay home and to stay in their own parish and own districts and start their businesses and families right there instead of leaving the state.
One of the current economic factors I read it yesterday. Since COVID and the inflationary numbers that came up, people are eating out less. Well, that hurts our local restaurants. So when you do these things, if you end up with more money, you're going to take the kids out to eat more. You're going to stop by. You're going to pick up that toy. You're going to, you're actually inherently going to do more. And that's all. That's already taxed at the local level. That's already a local tax.
I'm excited to share a fantastic opportunity for State of Freedom listeners who are interested in investing in precious metals or even starting a home-based business in the precious metals industry. Metal Stacks is a precious metals collectors club where you can buy your metals at the best prices on the market, actual dealer cost. They are beating the big sites. They have no credit card fees and no minimums. If you're just interested in purchasing metals at a great price, visit metalstacks.com/dwalker. Get to shopping. That helps me out. I get the commission. You can also refer people to Metal Stacks for an additional income. If you're interested in learning about the referral business aspect of Metal Stacks, email me directly at danielle@freedomstate.us for more information.
Last question on here, Neil. The skinny on it, hide, hair, and guts. What is not what they say in the legislature necessarily, but what is your view looking at this? What is the biggest obstacle of resistance politically to this getting through successfully at some point?
You have to be very clear, it's special interest groups that have very high paid lobbyists to protect those rebates and credits. I'll say it again. You have special interest groups that have very high paid lobbyists that are here to protect those. Now, my job as representing my people in the Republic is to protect them and get the money back to them. Now, that's the way I see it. Now,
what's it going to take to get it done? Is it possible to even get it done this session? You mentioned that you're in your bill, the effective date is January 1st, 2026 as you drafted it. So in my view, every year it takes to get this bill passed represents another year and a half of the state taxing our income.
That's exactly right. Good point, Danielle, because you have that delayed ramp-up effect. So now we're looking at 27 or 28 maybe. But is it going to be passed this year? No, it didn't come out of committee. It's just held in committee, so that's where it's at. There was not a motion presented. If it had been an actual motion, would have been to defer or to report favorable or no action. Those are all motions. And then I could have went to the body and tried to send it to the body, made a motion to discharge it from committee. But you have to have a motion to make that motion.
Because the committee members don't want the blowback of saying that they have been in some way opposed to this, because it's politically untenable to be opposed to this, but they're also not moving it forward.
We sat here now, 25 minutes and have probably another 100 questions or thoughts to go through. But yet in committee on April the 15th, there was not a single question.
That's a shame.
not a single question.
Yeah, it's like they want to be able to have their cake and eat it too. And Neil, what you said a little while ago really resonated with me. And Danielle affirmed what you said. All the people we've had on our show, we've had countless candidates and reps and senators on our show, and almost every single one of them has expressed support in principle for abolishing the individual state income tax in Louisiana. So apparently, according to what they're saying, the will is there. Chairman Emerson said that the will is there. So if the will is there, then let's move forward and do what we got to do for Louisiana citizens. This is a perfect example, Neil, a perfect example of our elected leaders running on one thing and governing on another, running on being faithful to the average ordinary taxpaying Louisiana citizen, and yet not doing what they need to do in the legislature to get away from the big special interests that they're beholden to. This is a classic example, and this is one of the reasons why this is such a bright spot for all of us, that you bring in the legislation and that you apparently have really thought about this. You're not just out there saying, oh, let's abolish individual state income tax because it sounds good and it's a good political soundbite. You've really looked at the mechanics of this.
Correct. I served on either Senate Revenue or House Ways and Means for 16 years, and I've seen it brought to us before without a plan. Let's just do it and try to work it out. Well, no, I've got a plan that will work. It will work. Somebody wants to modify it to a better methodology, I'm all for it, but my plan will work. And it will not be it's revenue neutral.
Well, you certainly got no indication in the committee that it won't work, because nobody asked you anything about it. So you must have hit the ball out of the ball. You must have hit it out of the ballpark in there, because you didn't get any questions.
I figured they agreed. Is all I could figure.
I think that's a reasonable inference. What Neil? What are the chances of this being? Danielle and I were talking about this pre-show before you came on, of possibly getting this into the Constitution, basically saying that there shall be no individual income tax in the state of Louisiana as a matter of constitutional law, and maybe even a list of other things that can't be taxed in Louisiana. God knows we've put enough things in our Constitution that don't belong there. It seems like this is pretty fundamental.
I like that. I haven't thought of that, but that's what I'm saying. Let's have the conversation. If it's there, no, it's not taxable. That takes care of it. We have to figure out a methodology at that point. And my methodology would be the one that's most simple.
No doubt. But you would be, in principle, you'd be in support of trying to get this codified in the Constitution.
Sure. Yeah. And because it's been proven to work. We're not the first state out the box saying we hope this works. The two biggest economies, robust economies, Texas and Florida, they're rolling. So it's not a matter of whether or not, hey, are we going to do this? Does it work? It works. When you give the money back to people.
When you get money. In fact, Neil, our citizens are going to those states in droves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well said. Representative Reiser, in your time on Ways and Means and revenue committees, do you have any other measures in mind for simplifying the tax code further? Because I feel like this would be a huge leap forward, but our tax code in the state is so messy and convoluted and complex. What other areas would you want to tackle?
One of the things so we're kind of breaking off the subject, but one of the things we looked at initially was a flat tax. Within that, but now we're talking about eliminating the personal income tax, but still at the corporate level, just knowing what it is, what I've dealt with through my years, that anybody that's looking at big corporations wanting to come to the state, they say, simplify y'all's rules. It's so complicated, make it simple. Just make it simple where we know what the rules are. They say, we deal with people all over the globe, and y'all one of the hardest ones to deal with, because you have the most complex roof. The larger corporations will pay theirs in protest. So when they get it, they get their tax bill, they actually pay it, but they're saying, I'm paying in protest, I do not agree. So they'll come back with high dollar lawyers and come back and litigate back and forth until we find it's like being in business. You need your accounts receivable. You need the money that's owed you. At some point in time, you've got to collect something. And that's what the state generally ends up doing, is taking less than what's owed. And that's a problem with us too. The amount that we should be collecting on a lot of this is being protested and never paid.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Representative Wright maybe proposed a resolution that would have the state study the different modes of taxation so that we could look at potentially simplifying the tax code. So I hope that moves forward. I haven't really followed it, but I remember seeing it on the Legis website.
And I've seen that many times come through. So what I'm proposing now, the simplest thing to simplify the code is we don't pay personal income tax.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think it's a great step forward.
And it's and Neil, you've given us such good insight into some of the arguments that will be made in opposition and how to counter those arguments and how our listeners can move forward and continue to push this. Obviously, this session, it's not going to go through. Very disappointed in that, quite frankly, and we're going to make sure everybody knows why it didn't go through. Everything we do respectfully and civilly, but we have an obligation to let our listeners and citizens of Louisiana know exactly what happened and why, and it certainly has not been for a lack of effort. And I know you're not giving up on this at all, and we're going to keep moving forward. So, as you've indicated before, the best thing that LACAG members and State of Freedom listeners can do is reach out to their representatives and legislators and continue to do that regularly, and let them know that they want the individual state income tax in Louisiana abolished, and they don't buy the arguments on the other side against it.
Correct. I mean, I hate to say as simple as that, but it is simple as that.
Yep. Well, God bless you. And Neil, I want you to be able to, I'm going to open it up to you. Last words from you on this, and then we'll let you go. But what are your last words on abolishing the state income tax in Louisiana and how important it is?
How important that to those that say that it'll raise taxes, number one, that is not true. These are revenues that we're already collecting and we're using as rebasing credits elsewhere. We would come in, take this $5.1 billion of personal income tax, that'd be approximately 50%. We would reduce those as outstanding by that and eliminate the personal income tax.
Last question. I'm sure that you have spoken to, and you don't have to mention any names, but I'm sure that you've spoken to colleagues in the legislature in both the House and the Senate regarding this issue, and probably have gotten some pretty good affirmative support for it.
I really have, and that's the reason I'm excited about it. If I didn't think I could get the votes, you're kind of working against a stone wall. But that's not the case. The appetite for it is here at the Capitol. I mean, it is here. It's everybody in the state wants it. And once again, everybody at state legislatures, statewide, has all said they're for it.
Yeah.
So I think we can get it done. We've never had that before.
Nope.
We've had other administrations that were not for it. We've had legislators that were not for it. Now we finally have unified across the board, everyone for it. There is no reason why we should not be able to get it done during this term.
Have you had any indication of where the governor stands on this?
Our governor wants to get it done.
Good.
Now what, when and where, I don't know, but I mean, when he spoke, I mean, he wants to work towards that methodology too.
Well, that is something that we're really, really glad to hear because having the governor on board certainly never hurts. Thank you, Neil, for joining us today, and thank you for your good work down there. Just the fact that you're bringing this, it's probably the most single important issue facing our state from a fiscal standpoint right now. We are taxed to death. We can barely walk across the floor without getting taxed as individual citizens, and it seems like everybody down at the legislature who has any interest in this is represented except for the ordinary, hardworking Louisiana citizen who gets up every day and obeys the law and deserves some relief. And you're standing up for him, not just for the folks up in your area, but for folks across the state. And we're going to keep building and keep pushing, and we're going to keep building grassroots support for this. And we just want your commitment that you're going to keep it up, keep your eye on the ball, and don't let up on it.
I won't, Chris. I'm committed. God
bless you, man. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, take care.
Chris, we still have this call to action on our website. So I say we put it on full blast. Everyone, every listener who hears my voice right now, go to LACAG.org, visit the Action Center, and let the committee members know, because that's who it's directed at right now. It's directed at committee members. I'll turn it on so that it hits every House and Senate member as well as the committee members. And we should just really turn up the heat on these people, because there is no excuse for this kind of absolute ignoring the will of the people because of the pressure of special interest groups. I'm absolutely galled by it.
Me too. And did you notice, Danielle, that a lot of times it's obviously not favorable when a bill gets involuntarily deferred, or even when the committee strongly pressures the author of the bill to voluntarily defer it. Those are not real good outcomes. But on this outcome, they left Neil with no option to do anything, because they took no action on it and no vote. So he doesn't even have the procedural grounds at this point to try to force it back in front of a committee, because they didn't do anything.
Well, we should force it back in front of a committee. We should do our level best to bring pain on those legislators. I want us to rain down on their offices and let them not be able to escape the fact that the citizens of Louisiana need relief. It's absolutely insane. And I completely lost my train of thought. No, you know what? I didn't lose my train of thought, or I grabbed it back. But before we came on the show, Rep. Reiser said he believes that they will go to the bitter end. He thinks that they're going to be there through June 3rd. So if that's the case, there is time to get this done. And if we can put the pressure on, if we can turn the heat up high enough, maybe, just maybe, this will see a little resurrection.
I want to encourage everyone who hears my voice right now, every LACAG listener, every State of Freedom supporter, to go to the LACAG website and send the call to action out on what's the bill number again, Danielle? HB 844?
House Bill 844.
House Bill 844. Send an email and demand that the state income tax in Louisiana be abolished. Grassroots activism works. A groundswell of support will work, and this will be revolutionary in our state, where the state is no longer extracting $5 billion every year from average hardworking Louisiana citizens, individual income tax every year. It will make a huge difference. Danielle, there's a reason why people in Louisiana are moving in droves to Texas and Florida. And part of the reason why they're doing that is that they don't have to worry about paying an individual income tax in those states. And it makes a huge difference to the bottom line of ordinary average families.
Yeah, it does.
It
absolutely does. And the people of Louisiana should be treated as people who are heard, people who elected these people into office. And I want to see the legislature have some respect for their constituents, have some respect for the fact that constituents are facing tremendous price pressures from inflation, from these crazy Bidenomics. And I want them to respond to that.
And everybody down there, when it comes to abolishing the state income tax, all the big special interests, the big corporations, they're all represented, as Neil said, by high-paying lobbyists. LACAG.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
They don't pay state income tax.
Exactly.
They don't pay the state income tax, so they can sit down and shut up.
Exactly. They can sit down and shut up. And yet, who is speaking for the individual citizen who is paying the state income tax every year individually? And that's LACAG, and that's the State of Freedom. And that's why we appreciate all the support that we're getting from across the state. And that's why your financial support, your financial donations, and your memberships to LACAG are so hugely important, because we don't take money from those big special interest groups. We accept donations and money and are sustained by ordinary Louisiana citizens across the state, which is why we are able to fight for your interests on this issue and so many others without being divided in our loyalty. Our loyalty is strictly and solely to you. We live or die by you and your generosity. So please continue to support us. Please continue to help us move forward. And I believe, Danielle, if we do that, we can get this done. We can get this state income tax in Louisiana abolished in a revenue neutral way. And if we do that, we will be able to say, you and I and all the other citizens across Louisiana will be able to say that we did, in fact, take yet another grand step to preserve the state of freedom in Louisiana.
Amen. Let's get it done, Chris.
Let's do it. Let's do it now.
Thanks for listening to The State of Freedom. To stay on top of all the calls to action we mentioned today, just check out the show notes for the episode. If you'd like to support the show financially, visit our website at freedomstate.us. If you'd prefer to give by mail, you can send a check to The State of Freedom, LLC, at P.O. Box 861, Berg, Louisiana 70343. If you own a business in Louisiana and are interested in supporting our show by advertising, please email us at info@freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit LACAG.org, LACAG.org, or email Chris at chris@lacag.org. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and share it. Give us a 5-star rating in the reviews. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.